on Monday, January 11th, 2021. Tonight's invocation will be delivered by Reverend Mike Grider of Mission Tri-State, and Councilman Tyler Bowen will lead us in the pledge. At this time, you may rise, and please silence your cell phones. Reverend Grider.
Father, we gather here this evening, and we just thank you for the liberties that we have as a nation, and Father, for the blessings we've seen over our community. God, we ask right now this evening that you would give divine wisdom to our council, especially our new council members. And God, we ask you to give us the insights and creativity needed to solve those challenging problems or those issues that confront us. But also, God, just give us that spirit of unity and that attitude of collaboration. So, God, we speak your blessing here, and we ask all that in Jesus' name. And everyone said?
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Atkins, please call the roll.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Bailey?
Present.
Mr. Bowen?
Here.
Mr. Jackson?
Here.
Ms. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Ms. Mount?
Here.
Ms. Rumbaugh?
Here.
Mr. Shockley?
Here.
Mr. Sweeney?
Here.
Ms. Wheeler?
Here. Item 3 is the synopsis of the last meeting.
Madam Chair, I move for the adoption. Second.
All right, that is moved by Councilman Shockley and seconded by Councilman Bailey. Any discussion? As we are all present, we don't need to do a roll call. So all in favor?
Aye.
All right, none opposed. So we will approve the synopsis of the last meeting. Item 4, the reports of the mayor. Mr. Mayor? Also understand you had some dental work today, so we'll understand if your speech is at all impaired.
If it's impaired, that's because of the dentist, not anything else.
Nothing else.
I would not be toasting anything coming in here. And that's the beauty of it is with masks. My eyes are bright, but with all the stuff that they did, I think it looks like I have Bell's palsy underneath the mask, so thank heaven for masks. Madam Chair, members, congratulations. It's the first opportunity in an official meeting for me to be able to say that. I remember the first time that I ran for office. Coach, you remember in 1986 I was running for the House of Delegates, and then the night that the returns were coming in, I was waiting down at the Herald-Dispatch for the first newspapers to come right off of the lines. And my first day in the legislature to be able to convene was unbelievably exciting. But I also remember the first day coming in several years later, my first day on city council. Ms. Mount, my seat was right there. They didn't let me get over close to the chair. Made sure that I was a little bit removed. I've been involved in started in municipal government in May of 1979. Coach Bailey was on city council then. I came in as an intern to work for the city manager. The city manager asked me why I was interested in being an intern at local government. And frankly, if any of you who have ever interviewed, you know you want to be prepared for certain questions that are coming in. That one I wasn't prepared for. And buddy, I just pulled something from out and I said, well, it's the one area that is closest to the people. Boy, it worked. But I came to understand that. And here 41 years later, almost 42 years later, every day when I come on in to the office, I am unbelievably excited to be able to interact with people at the grocery store, at church, sometimes you'll find there's just no getting away from it, and that sometimes feels like a curse. But then there's golden moments that come along, and you realize what a blessing it is to be able to operate just as this. You notice on your agenda, there's nothing on the agenda today. It was done out of respect for you in this regard. When I was on council, in the last 2 terms as I have been mayor, the council chose to start working by means of committee. And any issue that would come up that the administration would send over to be placed on the agenda would be sent to the chair, and the chair would then appoint it to a committee. If it was something that we needed to rush along and time was of the essence, we'd have a conversation to see if it was possible to, as we would call it, fast track it. It'd come before the committee, but the committee got to touch things first. Let me please make this very serious pledge to each of you. I've only had to do this 3 times in the 8 years since I've been mayor. Our expectation and intent is to look at the issue from every angle, hit every point that needs to be evaluated, ask every hard question that has to be asked. And when we're bringing something to you, we feel like we have taken it through the process. But that doesn't mean just take it straight to council. Each of you on your committee have a chance to go through it and start asking some tough questions about it. Now, there have been 3 instances where it's gone through committee or it's ended up on council, and it was quite clear that we still needed to work on it. And I sit over in the corner, as you all have seen, and I've walked over and I've said, give it back to us. Obviously, we haven't done our jobs right. Let us work on this. Very few times will I bring something to you that I don't think that you will find reason not to move forward on it. But still, you are the legislative body. And by being that legislative body, it's necessary for you to effectively go through, bless you, sir, to go through and evaluate the issues. So the reason you don't have an agenda today is that we had several items that had gone through the committee process. In December, I told my team, nothing will be on the January 11th agenda for second reading. That would have just been insulting to you, to go through the process and then have something up for you for passage. It just so happened that we had things that were coming through committee that were resolutions. No first readings were coming out. Frankly, we didn't want something to be recommended by committee to this body, and it's the first time that you've ever seen it or had an opportunity to review it. That's why the agenda is empty. It's giving me an opportunity to encourage you to embrace the committee process and embrace it in this manner. If it works appropriately, effectively, each of you assigned in your committees will evaluate an issue to the point that you will come to understand who is sitting on the committee. I would expect that you will develop a trust of those individuals in their evaluation of the specific area of government that is related to. For instance, in finance, you would come to have a sense that anything that the Finance Committee, Administration and Finance Committee would be reviewing, make sure that it is fiscally sound. If it's something related to public safety, those dealing with on the Committee of Public Safety would be reviewing that, and you would have a trust that they have looked at it from all angles. Again, it doesn't mean that the council doesn't have a voice. But if we follow the committee process, by the time you get to the point of voting yes or no on second reading, every one of you will have had the opportunity to review it at least 4 times, and most 5 times. 1 time before committee. The committee can keep working on it until it's ready to make a recommendation. I chaired the Finance Committee when I was on council. Honestly, the administration wasn't real happy with me because we wouldn't let go of something until it was ready. And I can remember him saying to me, just rip the Band-Aid off. And I said, Band-Aid's not ready to come off. And we continued working it. And then they knew that once it was ready to be passed, that it was something that could be passed. You will see up to 5 times. The committee review. In first reading, there will be a work session, and it will be reviewed in detail in work session and be able to answer your questions. Then you'll have a first reading and be able to ask questions in that first reading. Then there'll be a work session before the second reading and be able to ask questions. By the time you get to the second reading, you will have had your hands on this at least 4 times and maybe 5 times. And what we've learned in recent years is by the time it gets to second reading, everybody pretty much knows where they're standing. We've worked out the kinks. If the kinks haven't been worked out, it's being sent back to committee, or you'll have me. And I said, as I indicated, in the last 8 years, only 3 times have I said, give it back to us. We have not done our job. And I'll put that on my shoulders. When we bring something over, this is the administration's bill. It is not a public works bill. It is not a police bill, a fire department bill. It is the administration's bill, ordinance, or resolution. And I take very seriously, if my name is going to be on it, then I better make blessed sure that we've reviewed it completely. If you find that you don't believe that you can trust what I'm trying to do, or you think that we're falling short, all I'd ask is provide a courtesy that I will be seeking to provide you. Take me to the side. Let's have a tough conversation. If you can't get an action out of me in that private conversation, then you're free to take it and take any shots at my head that you want. But I think, and I've learned over the last 42 years, that if you go off to the side and have the very direct conversation, you learn to be able to work together on the real hard things in the future. Frankly, I think that's part of what we have been doing is working, and you see what's happening elsewhere isn't, because they don't seem to have that. They've lost that courtesy with one another. So the reason that it's an empty agenda today is because we have some items that we've sent to the chair for her to assign to committee. And we expect that that's going to start through the process. and we'll be moving forward on that. We have provided you, where's Rick? We've provided you the monthly financial report. I'm going to ask Rick Montgomery, our comptroller, to come up and go over the financials with you. But let me give you a little hint real quick. Just kind of get to right straight to the bottom line. Are we getting more revenues coming in than we're spending? I always, whenever I get this, the first thing I do is I go to page 42. 42 of 42 pages. There's also additional statements on our sanitation fund and other grant funds and such. But on page 42, you'll look at the third column over and you'll see year-to-date actual amount. What you'll see is in the general revenue totals, revenue and expense. The revenue totals are $27,535,170. This is through November 30th. Our expenses through that point are $21,962,372.82. We are in the black $5,572,797.48. There have been times that I've been on council. Some of you would happen to be coming in. Coach Bailey, if you went through these in the years that you were here, there were times where you would see that the revenue and the expenses were so blessed close. We've done this on purpose. I was in a deposition recently and someone asked me why we hadn't spent some money on thus and such. It was opposing counsel. And I said, the reason is so that we don't have to close our doors during the pandemic. When we have $5.5 million to the good, it does not mean that all of a sudden that we've got all sorts of cash to be able to throw around. It took an awful lot of hard work and some daggone tough decisions that 2 of you were a part of. The other 9 will say thank you to those 2 for making those hard decisions 4 years ago. Actually, it was about 4 years ago to this time. I'll step aside and let Rick Montgomery go through the financials with you, but this is where I go immediately. Are we spending less than we're bringing in? If we are, okay. He'll show you how to be able to look at public works and police and fire and finance to be able to see how we're doing on that. Rick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Madam Chair, members of the council, again, my name is Rick Montgomery. I serve as the city's comptroller. And as the mayor said, we have provided for your review the financial statements of the primary government for the month of November 2020. As of November 30th, we were 5 months or 42% into the fiscal 2021 budget. The general fund is the government's primary operating fund and accounts for most activities of general government. And overall, the general fund revenues were $27.5 million year-to-date, or 52% to budget. So we are 42% into the year, and we have collected 52% of our budgeted revenue. Expenditures were at 35%. The general fund is made up of 14 departments, of which administration and finance, fire, police, and public works are some of the largest. Departments are further divided by division in accordance with the state's municipal uniform chart of accounts. As of November 30, the Administration and Finance Department, which comprises Finance Office, Municipal Court, Human Resources, the Huntington Human Relations Commission, Purchasing, and IT divisions, was at 40% year-to-date of budget expenditures. The Fire Department was at 37% of budgeted expenditures. Police Department was at 38% of budgeted expenditures. And Public Works Department, which comprises Public Works Administration, inspection and permits, building maintenance, traffic engineering, motor pool, street department, and street construction divisions, was 41% budgeted expenditures. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions for Mr. Montgomery? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Typically, Madam Chair, members, typically we will have this presented to the Finance Committee. If the members wish, after we've presented it to the Finance Committee, if you're wanting him to be able to come in and do this, certainly we'll be able to. If you want something presented to you, simply let us know. Let me address one thing I don't have in my notes, but at least so that you can get a sense of what's happening within our operations. Because of these masks and where you're having to sit, we are still deep in the throes of the COVID-19 pandemic. I've been awfully proud of how we at City Hall and city government have been able to respond within our operations. We did not close our offices for 1 minute since the COVID-19 pandemic arrived in our city. There's not another governmental entity in the state of West Virginia that's able to, there might be other cities, but certainly, I'll just brag about in Cabell County. Nobody else in Cabell County can boast that as a governmental entity. Our schools, as we know, and universities and community colleges have even shut down. I am unbelievably worried. Our employees are starting to test positive for COVID-19. We're at the highest levels that we have been. We've been unbelievably fair with our employees. We found every way possible to help someone be able to work remotely. For those individuals who were exposed, we made sure we had federal law that came along that helped mandate it, but we were already prepared to make sure that nobody was going to lose their pay because of the virus. This is a struggle every day. We have some departments that entire divisions are being shut down. Not that everybody is getting COVID-19, but others are being exposed to it. We've tried to reorganize, reschedule ourselves, and we're reviewing this nearly every single day. Today I had my leadership meetings and one-on-one meetings with many of our department heads, and this was an active part of our discussion. So what that means is there's some things that we just normally do, like clockwork, we're not able to do because we have so many people who are off. We've had to shut down divisions. We're working is to determine what we need to do, what adjustments we need to make. Fortunately, we've made enough connections around the country to see what other cities are doing, other governmental entities. We're constantly review. But that's why we're doing it this way. You will see I have my department heads here, and they will continue to be here, but with those who are division heads and other individuals within departments, out of an abundance of caution, when something is to be presented, they'll come and present, and when it's done, they're going to leave. We don't want to expose our employees. We don't want to expose you unnecessarily. Let me just remind you that City Hall will be closed on Monday, January 18th, in observance of the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. Household garbage service will be on a normal schedule that day and for the entirety of next week. The 2021 holiday garbage schedule has been emailed to each of you and also placed in your mailboxes. One program that we've been working on, and really just in each of your, there's not a district that is untouched by this, in dealing with substandard and dilapidated buildings. On October 26th, I announced that the city would be launching a large demolition blitz. Our goal was to completely eliminate the unsafe building list by June 30th, 21, which is the end of the current fiscal year. When we started this in late October, we had over 150 buildings on the unsafe building list. And our goal was to, I think it's closer to 160, our goal was to have all of those demolished by the end of the fiscal year. When I came into office, there were over 400 buildings on that list. I'm awfully proud of what we've been doing, but as each of you, I'm sure, have already found out or knew when you were running, that's a problem that is in every district. And as much as I would love for us on June 30th to say that list is empty, that's just not going to happen. Because we will start adding as we continue to review, have our inspectors come in with the Unsafe Building Commission. There will be additional buildings added on to that over the coming months. In 2017, there were more than 400 structures on the unsafe building list. In 2019, the city launched Project BANE, B-A-N-E, standing for Blight and Nuisance Elimination. The project resulted in the demolition of 104 unsafe structures, and by the end of that year, the unsafe building list had dwindled down to approximately 100 structures. I'm pleased to tell you that this year, since the October announcement, 34 structures have since been removed from the list. 20 were demolished using city funds, 10 having been demolished by the owners, and 4 have been removed from the list because they're being rehabilitated. A detailed report has been provided to you that lists the locations of these 34 structures and also provides a breakdown by city council district. The demolition work that began in October in the Fairfield East neighborhood, where there are 21 unsafe structures that will be demolished during the next several weeks. One other thing that we are developing is that we can't become the city and have our neighborhoods in the pristine condition that we want by just tearing down all the dilapidated buildings. What we found is that nearly half of our structures are being rented. A healthy community has about 35 to 40%. We're right at 49%. Of that 49%, we found that 57% of those were considered having some level of blight. We'll be bringing the program to you and giving you a highlight. We're demolishing, but we're also pulling together a program of encouraging rehabilitation. We have done this in the past. The problem is when you spread it out all over the entire city, people are saying, well, why aren't you going to do something? So what we've learned is that we're going to target a neighborhood or two and make sure that we're having an impact there, learn some lessons, and within 2 years' time, start to overlap, take those lessons, and then go to the other neighborhoods. We're going to do things that nobody else has thought of doing. We've been doing that for 8 years, but we still have more to go. But if we're going to be able to attract individuals from the metro areas that are looking to live in smaller communities and be able to have natural social distancing, we've got to be able to show that in our neighborhoods that it's inviting for them to come into the area. We're being very aggressive as to how to take that, but we will be working with you on demolishing, on rehabbing, and with the properties that we're demolishing, also helping individuals to be first-time home buyers, and we're working with a local bank to make sure that that is being done. And that local bank, when they're ready to announce it, they will, but there's Huntington, there's Detroit, I think there's Pittsburgh, I can't remember the other city, but none of them are nearly the size that we are. They'd only wish they were. Earlier today, the last item, Madam Chair, last item, I sent you an email today where we have created the position of Director of Council and Citizen Engagement. I had alluded to this before to each of you when we had our orientation on that one Saturday morning. I'm proud to have announced to you all and to the public later in the day that Mark Bates has agreed to come on board to be the director of that operation. One of the purposes of local government, city government, is to be able to respond to citizen concerns. Nothing is more frustrating as a council member when you try to get something done and you can't get somebody to pick up the phone or to get a response on something being done. Now, it distresses me that some of you are nodding your head knowingly, and that just kind of, I'm going to probably show my tail somewhere else saying, how is it that this soon that they're feeling like they're not getting a response? I think that we've been able to do an effective job, but I don't believe that we've been able to do as good a job as we should. Mark has been hired to be your go-to person if there's an issue that is within among your constituents. To that end, there is a process that works quite good. Go to Barbara or Lisa, let them know what the concern is. They'll shoot an email to me copying Angie Bracey, my executive assistant, and now Mark, as well as the department head that they certainly recognize who has the responsibility. Mark will be, and actually today's his first day, and he's already been out on a couple of issues that some of you have already asked about, and he's been out metaphorically chasing the dog down. You all know Mark served 12 years on council. He understands the operations of city government, and frankly, I'm honored that he agreed to come on to be a part of the team. He's also being charged with working with Brian Chambers, Scott Lemley, and Sharon Pell on our staff to create a 311 mobile app program where citizens have a problem with the sidewalk, with a dilapidated building, a pothole, or whatever. They'll be able to go on to this app, be able to put it in. It will be immediately sent to Mark for his review, for his notification to the department that it needs to go to. You will get a copy because it will know what district this is in, and you'll get a copy of it. We still have some assessment to do, and we've got to put a bid together and everything. But Mark will be leading that effort with Brian, Scott, and Sharon. This is the longest report I'm going to be giving you this year. And honestly, there's a ball game about to start in about 10 minutes that I think some of you want to see, and some of you are going to go, what ball game? But I think there's probably more who are interested in watching the ball game. I'll shut up, and I'll answer any questions that you may have. But again, congratulations. I am so eager to be working with each of you. What you bring to the table, your new ideas and such. None of you are brand spanking new. One of the 9 has been through an awful lot of wars, but the last time he was here was before the Truman administration. Can I answer any questions? Yes, sir.
Mayor, you said earlier 50% of our properties are rentals,
Yes, sir.
and 57% of those are in bad shape.
Yes, sir. That was an analysis. We had received a grant from the Bloomberg Philanthropies, and they sent a graduate fellow from Harvard to come in and do an evaluation of our city and to make recommendations. One thing that we've learned is that if we approach our solutions with evidence-based solutions, then the politics isn't going to get caught in the mix. We're going to respond to what the data points to, and with proven solutions. And Kathy Burns has been leading that. Kathy Burns is our development director, also the director of HMDA, and she'll eventually come in with a presentation of what that program was, and then also the rehab program that we're planning on putting together.
Is there any way of knowing the folks that own those properties that rent them out, where they're located from? Are the majority of those folks from Huntington, or?
I don't know the percentage of that are locally owned property, local property owners, or what percentage. Kathy knows more of the details. I'm not sure if that's part of the data or not, but that will be something that she'll come to present. And if it's something you're interested in now, certainly she's here. She'll hear. You all can connect, and she can provide you some of the juicy details that I'm obviously not familiar with.
I appreciate it.
Other questions of the mayor?
Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So we try to be fair here. Go Bucks, roll Tide.
Thank you so much. All right, item number 5 is good and welfare. We have an email that we have received that I'll read into the record for City Council, and this is from Lieutenant Steve McCormick. He's the Huntington Fire Department President, IAFF Local 289. He says, "Good evening, council members. On behalf of Huntington Professional Firefighters Association Local 289, I would like to congratulate each of you on your newly elected council position. I look forward to a collaborative and mutually beneficial relationship during your terms. Respectfully, Lieutenant Steve McCormick, again, Huntington Fire Department President, IAFF Local 289. So, very nice note from Lieutenant McCormick. Ms. Atkins, do we have any other items that were submitted for good and welfare?
No, ma'am.
All right, then I'll begin to my left, and I'll just look your direction. If you have something you'd like to say, signal, and we'll stop with you, and if not, we'll just move on. Anyone here? Items for good and welfare? Councilman
I
Jackson?
want to keep hijacking everything, but I want to congratulate Mr. Bates over there. No, I think that was a good move, my personal opinion, for whatever that's worth. That's just about it.
Very excellent. Councilman Bailey?
Same thing, I wanted to congratulate the mayor for employing Mr. Bates. Mr. Bates is, he's a fine gentleman as far as I know, and he comes well experienced, and I'm looking forward to working with him. So thank you, Mayor.
Right. Anyone here? Members? All right. Well, with that, again, I understand there's some sports ball, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Anyone?
So moved.
All right.